Welcome to Art Loves Fashion. I'm your host, Sharonda Irving. I'm an image consultant, professional developer, art curator and collector, a wife and a mom. This show, Art Loves Fashion, is about, you guessed it, art, love, and fashion. We'll be meeting new people, trying interesting things, and hopefully learning something new. Sounds kind of vague, right? That's because I want you to join me on Sundays at 5 o'clock as we take a journey of all things creative and beautiful with art, loves, fashion.
Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Sunday and also Happy New Year. I am your host, Sharonda Irving, and welcome to Art Loves Fashion, a conversation about all things beautiful and creative. Now, it has been a minute since I have been 100% live. We have trucked it to the end of the year, and I actually had a little food poisoning situation, which was so super crazy. I had to run out there and make sure I got tested, make sure I was safe from COVID. So I am fine with that. But I had to take a minute to rest myself. And I guess that was the universe's way of saying, okay, chill out, take it on down. And do a little bit of a reset. So I had to do that. I had to, whether I was listening to my body up to that point or not, my body made me listen. So I am back. I'm feeling better. I couldn't even really eat well on Christmas, but I did get down on New Year's Eve. So I'm definitely thankful for that. And I am thankful to be here once again on Art Loves Fashion. And so we've got a fun show to jumpstart and restart the year. If you are watching live stream, I have a couple of really fun guests coming up on for the next couple of shows, as well as I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary of Art Loves Fashion, and I think I'm going to persuade my producer, Afiba, super producer, to help me come up with a best of kind of situation. So stay tuned for that because we've got a couple of fun guests coming up very, very soon. So with that, let's jump into the show. And our first segment up is art. Now, we all know from, the way things go, just because it's COVID, people are still having major milestone birthdays and all kinds of momentous occasions that are happening. And in the art world, obviously, is the same. And so Rush Arts had its 25th year anniversary in November. And for those of you who are not familiar, Rush Arts is actually a arts foundation that was started by Russell Simmons, Joseph Simmons, aka Reverend Run, and their older brother Danny Simmons. They collaborated together to create the Rush Arts Foundation. They started it in 1995, and I remember years ago watching some sort of documentary about Russell Simmons and how their whole empire came to be. And I remember them interviewing their brother Danny, and he had even from early on been into the art scene and all that. And he I think himself is actually an artist. So they created Rush Arts in 1995 in New York City. And they say that since then, the foundation has benefited tens of thousands of children through infusing arts into classrooms throughout New York City. And so because of that success, they then branched off to Danny Simmons actually expanded it to North Philadelphia. And, North Philadelphia is home to our girl Jilly from Philly and lots of other, Philadelphia has a very strong music scene. But at any rate, they opened their doors in Philadelphia in 2016 in the Logan section of North Philly. They took an abandoned building, refurbished it, made it beautiful, and created this space for the community, particularly for young people and emerging artists to have a space of education and creating. And so now they're celebrating their 25th year anniversary of Rush Arts in general, and that's for the New York and the Philadelphia community. And they're saying, even though it was COVID, they did not let COVID stop their show. They still had a celebration. The celebration obviously was online, but the celebration is called Art for Life. And basically, it was like, I'm sure in person it's probably some sort of big gala and that kind of thing, but it was an online event and they had an auction. And the auction actually was very impressive. Some of the things that were donated, they had like experiences that were donated. By Sterling K. Brown, by J.B. Smoove, Johnson, the guy from Shark Tank, tickets to see Conan O'Brien, and like tickets to a Hall & Oates concert. I don't know when y'all gonna go see Hall & Oates and what that's gonna be like, but those were items that were on the auction block. And the proceeds go to benefiting the Arts Foundation and helping to continue the programming that they have going on for young people. And so, in addition to just learning about what they have going on, they're pretty well known in the art community and what they're doing with young people. And we know that not all cities and not all areas have arts education in schools, and we know that access to art education and access just avenues for artists and Black artists is very, very narrow. So their foundation and the work that they do is widely known in the art community. Their current curator director, his name is Noah Smalls. And he has a really, really interesting story as well, because he's working with their Philadelphia arm of Rush Arts. And this young guy, he's about 42 years old. He was born and raised in Philadelphia and like had this long, interesting career around art. He actually started as a little boy, sort of curating and displaying and curating and selling his father's artwork because they lived near an art. There would be walking tours of the art community where they lived, and the father was like, "Forget that. We're gonna just go out here and take advantage of the people in the neighborhood that are coming to see these art exhibits, and we're gonna go ahead and sell them some art." And so, throughout his journey, he basically took that early exposure and that early experience to become formally trained in art and become a curator. And his career has taken him through this long journey. He went and worked in Miami, including Art Basel, volunteered at the African American Museum in Philadelphia, and so on and so forth. And now he is the director of the Rush Arts Philadelphia location, working alongside Danny Simmons. And he also has his own gallery in Philadelphia, and it's called the Upper Darby Arts Gallery. And I would encourage you, I always try to give you a little takeaway or a little something to go research and check out. Go and look at the Upper Darby Arts Gallery online. They've got a really interesting exhibit going on right now. A young guy who has some really vibrant, gorgeous artwork they're like water alcohol watercolors, and just really beautiful work. And actually, some of his works are for sale, and the smaller pieces like are really priced affordably if you are looking to try and acquire some original artwork for your collection or start your artwork. Some of the smaller pieces, oh yeah, the artist's name is Bryant Small. And I mean, absolutely gorgeous work. Abstract, which sometimes we are drawn to like portraiture because we see people and it's really easy to understand. But his abstract works are really, really gorgeous. So I would encourage you to go and check out the Upper Darby Art Gallery and check out the current exhibit. And if you are in the market of acquiring art or starting your art collection, that's not a bad place to start. If you go to the website and click on shop, you can see some of the original art that is for sale. And you can just pick up something that speaks to you to like jumpstart your collection or add to your collection, depending on where you are. And so we're going to transition from our art segment. So let's jump into our love section. So I was kind of just doing some digging and looking to see, what's trending about love, right? And I happened to come across this guy. His name is Thomas Knox, and he started this experiment in New York City called Date While You Wait. So basically, what he was doing was he started it off as an experiment and a project, and he does it in New York City in the subway, and basically he just invites strangers to share a moment of time with him while they're waiting for the subway. Now, what he said is that even though it's called a date, it's not really about dating. It's more about creating an opportunity to connect with people in a real way outside of social media. So he said he felt like people needed to connect face to face. So what he does is he takes down, you can see in the photo, he like brings a table down to the subway, a game, and a Coke bottle. Specifically, they say a Coke bottle, and puts a flower up and this sign, Date While You Wait, inviting people to come and spend some time. And so what he says is that, he basically invites people to talk about whatever they want to talk about, or sometimes they don't want to talk and they just play the game with him. And he started this in June of 2015. And, when people come to the table, he basically just asks them, how's your day going? And it basically just opens up a conversation for either, they'll either converse with him or they'll start playing Connect Four with him. And I thought this was like super, super interesting because we are definitely in that time and space where that face to face conversation and connection is almost non-existent. If you are doing something, you are somewhere waiting and you are not with friends to converse, most people are looking down at their phones, and even sometimes when they're with their friends or their loved ones, they're looking down at their friends, right? So for him to just, he's sitting there, he's not scrolling through his phone either. He's sitting there making eye contact with people and inviting them to come over to the table with him. And that's so funny because like I've been a lot of places where the people who are at work, like if you go in a store or wherever, and they're like supposed to be like engaging with the public, you see them scrolling through their phones. So it's a really interesting concept to me. Like I was in a department store the other day, and one of the sections, you know how sometimes the department store will have brands that are inside that department store. So I went into one particular section brand that I really actually like. And I'm like kind of browsing around. They were having a great sale. So I was like, I know I'm going to find something that I like. And honey, the sales girl was over there behind the counter with her back to the sales floor, just the scrolling away on her phone. And I said, you know what? I am going to lead, I'm going to assume positive intent. Maybe something is happening that is an emergency and she needs to take care of it right now. But I was like, oh, this is not a good look for her and for that particular brand because she didn't look up. I don't know if she realized I walked breezed through that section, but I was like, oh. So at any rate, that's a sidebar. But this date while you wait concept, it caught on and it got a lot of attention and a lot of buzz. He was in the New York Times, he was on CBS, NBC, NPR, Time Out Magazine, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. And people were really like interested in what in this experiment. The concept or they're taking the idea and turning it into like a TV show or some sort of um like a mini series of some sort. And when they put the pilot together, it actually won awards. They've taken it to 50 countries. There was the Mark Com Award for the pilot episode. And this particular award is open to 50 different countries, 5,000 submissions, and they actually won. The production company is an Emmy Award winning production company that is working with him to produce this season. There's going to be 1 hour episodes a piece of each one of these like experiments. And so the interesting thing is, of course, you know, whenever you have something good going on, somebody tries to replicate it or duplicate it. And somebody tried to replicate it. And Homeboy was like, put the kibosh on that whole situation. He went and actually confronted the people who tried to duplicate the scenario. He and there's a whole video of it, I think, on YouTube or something like that. But he basically goes to where these people were set up. And, you know, they had the same name and everything. Date while you wait. They were in the subway. I want to say that they did it. I want to say that they did it in another country, but then they also tried it here. So he went there. He sat down at the table, and he was like chatting away with the person, just like, yeah. So how'd you come up with this idea and all that? And they actually did say though. They said they saw the idea and that they were going to they wanted to do it as well. So they sort of tried to say that they were like imitating it because they thought it was a good idea, but Homeboy was not having it. He was like, oh yeah, who was doing that project? And they were like, he was like, yeah, I'm the guy. And then they were like, oh really? He was like, yes, really, I'm the guy. He had to say it like 10 times, I'm the guy, I'm the guy. And they were trying to like take selfies with him and and he was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm here to let you know this is my project and you will cease and desist with Date While You Wait because it is my thing. And, you know, I'm sorry to say it. Sorry, not sorry. The brother started it. It was some others trying to co-opt the situation, and he pumped the brakes on that, and to which I applaud him. And because we have seen so many countless examples of Black people starting something, innovating something, but because we don't own the rights, or because we have not gotten documentation, or haven't gotten lawyers involved, it gets stolen and somebody else gets rich from it. And he was having absolutely none of it. Okay. Yes, he was like, this is my idea. I am the guy. They were filming it and he kept saying it on the film. I am the guy. This is my idea. They were like, oh, ha ha ha, yucking it up. He, honey, was absolutely not having it. And the funny thing is, and some of the backstory of this Thomas Knox, he's a 33-year-old guy. He's from Brooklyn, grew up in foster care and eventually a group home. And he says that from that situation, which can be traumatizing and has really debilitated some people, but he said he learned the value of relationships and how to create a brotherhood. And he created a brotherhood with the other young men that he grew up in this group home with. And so as he got older, he got into volunteering and he became so impassioned, and people were so inspired by him that he started being invited to speak all around the world. And his goal was to create impactful experiences. And so through his, what could have been considered a traumatic experience, depending on his own life or story through that, but what can for many be a traumatic experience, he turned that into a gift, honey. He operated within the gift that he was given through that experience. And now they're actually making this into an upcoming TV show. So keep your eyes peeled for Date While You Wait TV, with these mini episodes of like interacting with strangers in the subway. I don't know. I've been looking to see what is the status of this project now with COVID and that kind of thing. But now I've looked him up on Instagram, but now it's more so them talking about the upcoming series. So keep your eyes peeled. There are people out here who are still interested in human connection. And he looks so friendly, Thomas Knox. Um, Go and check it out and look for the TV show. But on that same note, though, as I was thinking about this, I actually, because guys, I love a good takeaway, right? So I started thinking about this idea of talking to complete strangers. I personally, although I like to talk, and once I break the ice with people, I think that I'm a pretty good conversationalist, right? But I actually am not great at small talk. And I'm not great in being in a room with people that I don't know. And so, but it's something that I've always wanted to work on and get better at and improve, because I think it really is. It's either a gift, like some people say, like they've never met a stranger, right? They can talk to anybody. It's either a gift, or you actually have to kind of cultivate it as a skill. And so looking at Date While You Wait and his ability to talk to these total strangers, I was like, let me see if I can find some good takeaways for how to talk to strangers. So if you are a person who doesn't do well with talking to strangers, get your pencil and paper, because I'm going to share with you about 10 tips. And I'm going to go through them kind of fast because I want to make sure we get to our fashion segment. But the first tip that the research says is to go out alone. A lot of people, surprisingly, do not go places by themselves. And I've had friends say, like, you went there by yourself? What did you do? Who did you talk to? Now, I don't really like talking to strangers, but I love to people watch. And I have conversations with myself as I'm watching the people go by, and I am interested in observing, the interactions and the things that people are doing. So, but it says go out alone, because if you never are alone, you don't like if you're with someone, you always have that person to talk to. So you would never develop the skill of talking to strangers. But we've all been in that situation where we've been with a friend, we go someplace, and then they run into somebody they know, and they're like just chatting away, and you're standing there looking like you don't know what to say. Or, like depending on what you might do for a living, or what you may do in your social circles, you have to go to events with a partner or a spouse. And like for me, sometimes I have to go to events that we go to for business, and my husband knows a lot of the people in the room, and so he's there, talking to people, and I'm like sitting next to the other spouse, like, or whatever, and so I always am like, even though you came with somebody, you can find yourself having moments where you are alone, and you have to talk to somebody that you don't know, and you want to not look crazy. So go places by yourself sometimes to practice talking to strangers, right? So that's the first tip, go out alone. And if you already like going out alone, the next thing, step two, is be prepared to initiate contact. So that means that you introduce yourself, right? So if you're in a room, right, with lots of people that you don't know, they use the term social butterfly for a reason, because what do butterflies do? They kind of flit from place to place. They go from, flower or object to object. Think about yourself in that way. So you just go around and you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Sharonda. And then you say, how are you? Or what's your name? Because the step three, be prepared to be the person to say hello. Because it's so very easy to not to be waiting for someone to come talk to you. And next thing you know, you're just standing alone in the party, and you're either bored, or you might have an extra cocktail that you probably shouldn't have, or you're irritated because you want the person that you were with to come on back. So you can use that as an opportunity to meet new people, make new contacts, and networking, and so on and so forth. So go out alone, be prepared to initiate contact. And then the next thing is, now some people say don't talk about the weather because it's too cliche and people may not respond to that. But sometimes, like, that might be the way to break the ice. But what works, and one of my online watchers is saying, giving a compliment breaks the ice. And I love that. That's actually number four, encouraging people to talk about themselves. But number three is don't talk about the weather, right? Try to think of something else that might spark the conversation. And if you can't think of anything, you can simply say, how are you? Or if you're at a function, oh, so how do you know the host, or something like that. But giving a compliment is a great one. Oh, that's a lovely dress you're wearing, or whatever it is. But and be genuine. Don't go out here giving disingenuous compliments, because people can do that. Be honest and be genuine and give a compliment, and that does break the ice. And once you do that, be ready for a follow-up, because the person might say, oh, thank you, and then there's dead air. So be prepared to ask a follow-up question or have a follow-up comment. One of the things that I used to do is scan the newspaper. Because number four says encourage people to talk about themselves. So you could be talking to them about themselves, or you could be thinking about things that are like common topics. So like, what are the major headlines? Politics can be tricky, so you may want to stay away from that, even though it's like a huge topic in the news, politics and religion, right? But there's a lot of things going on in the news that can be a topic of conversation. And so you can either scan the newspaper, or we all got the news feed on our phone, you in the car on the way there, or while you're getting ready, see what are the major headlines of the day, and you can use that. Another one that I found that I thought was fantastic was Um, you can ask a person, what's keeping you busy these days? Or what are you working on? Because it gives a person room to talk about themselves, which is number four, encourage people to talk about themselves. It gives people room to talk about themselves. And then if you're in a situation where you're supposed to know what the person does for a living, if you say, so what are you working on these days? That'll be like a little hack to like get them to talk about what they do. And you can like remember like, oh yeah, that's the, you know, the curator of the art museum or whatever the case may be, right? But when you get people to talk about themselves, first of all, people love to talk about themselves, so that will definitely get a conversation flowing. um, and then you can also get some insight into their personality and find where you may have commonalities. So, the next step, once you get a person talking about themselves, the next step, number five, is share a little bit about yourself. You don't want to just like keep asking them about themselves and not offer anything about yourself because then you'll seem nosy or like you're prying into their business. So, you do want to offer something about yourself as well. And then number six is, what are your common interests? You may find that you have similar hobbies or similar interests, and or you are both like parents and have like school age kids or whatever the case may be. And then the conversation can kind of run on from there. Then the next thing is be friendly, but not pushy or aggressive. Go with the flow, be authentic, and don't hold people captive. I think we've probably all been in one of those situations before where you're talking and it starts out as a lovely conversation, but like you might be ready to move on. Um, and the person is still sort of keeping you engaged in the conversation, and you're like trying to get a beat to get out, and you feel like you're being held captive. So be mindful of that. Don't be pushy or aggressive. Don't hold people captive to the conversation. The more laid back you are in the conversation and the more laid back you are in your interactions, believe it or not, more people will want to talk to you. So then that was tip number seven. The next one is, don't be embarrassed if you are visibly nervous. Some people just acknowledge it like, oh my God, these kind of events makes me so nervous. I'm awkward. Like nowadays it's cool to tell people that you're awkward. And so you can just acknowledge that and sort of make light of the situation. And then tip number nine, let your personality shine through. Be authentically you. And again, like depending on the space, you may be around people who you normally wouldn't completely socialize with, and it may be a more formal occasion, but find ways to still be authentically you. People appreciate that. People will appreciate you for being a genuine person and a genuine individual. And with all the people that are at the event, or with all of the people in that space that you may have ventured into, everybody you may not have strike up a great conversation with, and that's great, but somebody in there you'll wind up having a great conversation with. And then finally, know when to end the conversation. um, Whether the conversation is going well or not going well at all, recognize when it's time to end the conversation. Like I said in step number seven, don't hold people captive, right? Know when it's like, it was so great talking to you. And if you feel like, oh, this is somebody that I think is so cool, exchange information. And nowadays, low stakes way of exchanging information is like following each other on social media, or being like, oh my gosh, you know what, we should hang out for coffee one day, or get the kids together for a play date, or whatever it is that you may have found that you have in common, and exchange information and be like, and it was so good talking to you, and I have to go now, whether it's leave wherever you were or like go talk to other people. And so I hope that uh, using these 10 tips can help you break the ice on talking to strangers. I think the biggest one for me is be willing to initiate the conversation or be willing to initiate contact, introducing yourself, and then like having that opening line. I applaud men who is usually their role to like approach women first. So y'all have to be so brave and come up to strange people, come up to women or come up with a creative way to break the ice. That is not easy. So, you know, practice using some of those tips. Have something to talk about, use open ended questions, follow up, get the person to talk about themselves, and pretty soon you'll be like working the rooms that you're in or talking to strangers and meeting new people, inviting new people into your 2021 life. If you try one of those, text me. Hit me on social media. Let me know how it went. Because I would, or if you got a trademark thing that you use when you're talking to strangers, let me know in the comments. Let me know and share the wealth. Okay. All right. We're going to transition to our last segment of the show. All right, we are transitioning to our last segment, which is our fashion segment. I hope everyone wore something sparkly and fabulous to the living room. In this case, I decided to pull out something a little festive for the show. This is like one of my favorite vintage pieces that I found because I love, love, love the buttons. I don't know if you can see them, but at any rate, I don't get to wear it that often. Um, but um, Hopefully, you wore something sparkly and fabulous to the living room or to your socially safe, socially distant event with your mask. Let's all do our part, right? But on that note, as we rounded out the year 2020, 2020 just had to like do the most even all the way up to the end. So I saw in the news that supermodel Stella Tennant, I think is the way you say her last name, passed away on December 22nd. Now, I don't know, you may not know her name, but you know her face. She was a bad mama jamma in the 80s, supermodel. She was one of the ones that was known for that androgynous look. Very like straight, flat eyebrows, dark hair. A lot of times she would have her hair over her eyes. Very, very lean body. But she was bad. She was amongst the list of the well-known supermodels. And she passed away she was just turned 50 on December 17th and died on the December 22nd. Now, according to some of the like one of the tabloid reports that I read, she had like split from her husband like a couple weeks before that. They were saying that they were holding on and making it work. And then she was like, you know what? I guess she was like, life is too short. I don't want to do this or whatever she decided. And they split. And then she dies? What in the world? The couple, they were married. They had 4 children together. And during her heyday, she was muse to Gianni Versace. She was also a muse to Karl Lagerfeld. She was on the cover of a lot of different magazines, including, of course, British Vogue. So, the fashion community and that community is mourning the loss of supermodel Stella Tennant. And then also Pierre Cardin died in France at the age of 98. Now, hey man, he lived a full life, right? Like 98, job well done, time, your transition has been earned, put it that way. So the thing that is really interesting about Pierre Cardin, if you are of a certain age, you probably remember a time when he was like considered to be like super, like it was like fashion, and then he was everywhere. Pierre Cardin had his name on everything. He had from chocolates and food and to frying pans and ink pens, all the way up to most recently an Android tablet. So Pierre Cardin is like pretty well known. He is considered to be a licensing pioneer. He was one of the first. Um, he transformed the business of fashion from like an elite thing to making it accessible to the masses. He put his name and his brand on everything. He was the one. He actually is the one why everything you buy says made in China, because he actually is the first one to start a business tie in Japan in the 1960s. And then he was also one of the first, if not the first, in the 60s to start using China for mass production. So now, if we buy everything made in China, we can thank Pierre Cardin for that. And he actually also was the first French couturier to penetrate the Soviet Union. So this man, in his 98 years, had been busy and had done a lot of groundbreaking work in the fashion industry. He's known for having a fascination with futurism, and NASA actually contracted him to design a spacesuit. And from that, he actually like created like spacesuit outfits for people. And he was saying that he designed fashion for a life that did not yet exist. And the interesting thing is, as I was looking at some of his iconic looks over the years, he actually designed something that looked like a little face mask. It was like a little plastic. I have one of the photos. If we could, yeah, he designed like little face masks. So I don't know, maybe Pierre, but the nose is out. We don't do nose out. We don't do nose out. So however, I'm looking at these like we might need to bring some of that back because that was pretty fly. But so at the tail end of 2021, the fashion industry, it is already suffering with how to sort of bounce back from this global pandemic, how to do better with including people of color, black and brown people in this multi-billion-dollar industry. And on the tail end, 2020 strikes again by us seeing the death of supermodel Stella Tennant and Pierre Cardin. But 2021 is here. We are turning the page and looking for something new and improved. I hope that you enjoyed today's show. We have, like I said, we have some upcoming guests for the month of January that you don't want to miss. If you saw the show with author Brandy Forte discussing her new book, Stronger, I will be going on Instagram Live to do a little Q&A about that book, because if you haven't read it, it was so good. It left me with so many questions. So she's going to do another segment with me so I can get my questions answered. If you haven't read her book, it's called Stronger by Brandy Forte. And I've got a couple of guests that are going to be coming back to visit and give us an update on some of the things that they have been working on for 2021. And so that wraps up today's episode of Art Loves Fashion. I thank you for tuning in. And I hope you had fun. Hope you learned something because that's always my mission to make sure you walk away with some type of good takeaway. And I will see you again next Sunday from 5:10 to 6 o'clock. And if you're just tuning in and you missed this episode and you want to see the full episode, go to my YouTube channel, Sharonda Irving, and you can see today's episode as well as the previous episodes. You can watch them at your leisure. And next time you tune in, I'll see you on WLVSradio.com, or I will see you on my Facebook page, Sharonda Davila Irving. So have a great week. Keep plugging away at those goals. We're not going to say resolutions. And much love. I see you next time.
Welcome to Art Loves Fashion. I'm your host, Sharonda Irving. I'm an image consultant, professional developer, art curator and collector, a wife and a mom. This show, Art Loves Fashion, is about, you guessed it, art, love, and fashion. We'll be meeting new people, trying interesting things, and hopefully learning something new. Sounds kind of vague, right? That's because I want you to join me on Sundays at 5 o'clock as we take a journey of all things creative and beautiful with art, loves, fashion.